Hello students, welcome to my channel Learning History Made Easy. In today's video, I'll be explaining about central administration. Before going into the video, if anyone is seeing the channel for the first time or if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and share it with your friends, and also click the bell button to receive notifications whenever I upload new videos. So without wasting time, let us get into today's video. So today's video is about the political science topic, that is central administration. Central administration. So regarding central administration, the central administration consists of different groups of people. So let us see who all are included in the central administration. So in central administration, we have the president, then we have the prime minister, then council of ministers, and then secretaries to all these offices, secretaries to all these offices. So all these together are included in the central administration. We have president, prime minister, council of ministers, and secretaries to all these offices are included in the central administration. Now, the next side heading, we will see the Central Secretariat. Central Secretariat. Regarding the Central Secretariat, the Secretariat, the word means Office of Secretaries. Okay, Office of Secretaries. That is the meaning of Secretariat. For the purpose of administration, the government of India is divided into ministry and departments, which constitute the central secretariat. So for the purpose of easy administration, the Ministry of India is Government of India is divided into ministry and departments. Okay, it is divided into ministry and departments, which constitute the central secretariat. So basically, central secretariat constitute the ministries and departments. Now, this central secretariat has a hierarchical order. Okay, the different departmental or hierarchical order is there. So let us see which are the different categories in this. Okay, so if we see the central secretariat, it has a hierarchical order. That is, first it has the department. Okay, department, that is the secretary. After that, wing. Wing is additional or joint secretary. Okay, after that there is the division. Division is deputy secretary. Deputy secretary. Then you have the branch. Branch is the under secretary. Under secretary. So division, branch, and finally you have a section, that is section officer. Section officer. So if you see, this is the hierarchical division in the central secretariat. First is department, then wing, then division, branch, and then section. That is secretary, joint secretary, deputy secretary, under secretary, and section officer. So this is how the hierarchical division works under the central secretariat. Now let us see each one by one. That is, first let us see about department. Okay, let us see about department. So regarding a department, this is the primary unit of the ministry. Primary unit. A single ministry has several departments. So there are several departments. For one single ministry, there are several departments. For instance, if you see the different departments, we can see the human resource. For instance, the human resource development is divided into two departments. Okay, there are two departments under the human resource development. This is an example, that is the Department of School Education and Literacy, school education and school education and literacy, and the Department of Higher Education, Department of Higher Education. So this was the system before. Actually, the human resource development is divided into two departments, that is Department of School Education and Literacy and the Department of Higher Education. So that is the department is a primary unit, and a single ministry will have several departments. That is what I was trying to explain. Then the ministers are the political head of ministry. So if we see the ministry, the political head of the ministry will be the ministers, and the secretary to the government, and the secretary to the government will be the administrative head. Okay, so political head will be the ministers, and secretary to the government of India, that is the administrative head. A minister remains in power for a period of 5 years. Okay, minister remains in power for 5 years. Generally, secretary belongs to permanent civil service. So if you see, the secretary generally belongs to a permanent civil service, and he or she remains in power till he retires. That is the division, that is minister for 5 years, and a secretary, usually permanent civil service, will remain in office till they retire. So this is about the first division, that is the department. Okay, now let us move on to the second division, that is the wing. Second one is the wing. So depending upon the volume of work in the ministry, one or more wings can be set up. So wings will be one or more, that is depending on how much work is there in the ministry, one or more wings will be set up. An additional secretary or joint secretary, just like we said before, the joint secretary or the additional secretary will be the in charge of the wing. Joint secretary or additional secretary will be in charge of the wing. He is given independent charge subject to overall responsibility of the secretary. So usually he is given independent charge subject to the overall responsibility of the secretary. So this much is about the second part, that is the wing. So first department, second is the wing. So before we go into the next part, let us just recall the points which we have studied till now, that is central administration. The central administration consists of the president, the prime minister, the council of ministers, and secretaries to these offices. The central secretariat. The word secretariat means office of the secretaries. For the purpose of administration, the government of India is divided into ministry and departments which constitute the central secretariat. Hierarchical order of central secretariat: department, wing, division, branch, and section. Department. This is the primary unit of a ministry. A single ministry may have several departments under it. For instance, the human resource development is divided into two departments, the Department of School Education and Literacy and the Department of Higher Education. The ministers are the political head of the ministry. The Secretary to Government of India is the administrative head. A minister remains in power for a period of 5 years. Generally, secretary belongs to permanent civil service and remains in office till he retires. Wing. Depending upon the volume of work in the ministry, one or more wings can be set up. An additional secretary or joint secretary is in charge of the wing. He is given independent charge subject to the overall responsibility of the secretary. So now let us go on to the next topic, that is division. division. A wing of the ministry is divided into division. So wing we already studied, that is again divided into divisions. Okay, divisions. This is for the efficient and expeditious disposal of business allotted to the ministry. Now, two branches are ordinarily constitute a division. Division usually have two branches. Two branches normally under the charge of a deputy secretary. These two branches will be under the charge of a deputy secretary. That is, a wing of the ministry is divided into divisions. This is for the efficient and expeditious disposal of the business allotted to the ministry. Two branches or ordinarily constitute a division, and these two branches normally under the charge of deputy secretary. So this is what we have to learn about division. Now the next subheading is branch. Next is the branch. A branch normally consists of two sections and is under the charge of an under secretary. So branch usually consists of two sections, and these will be under the charge of an under secretary. Under secretary, also called as branch officer. Branch officer. So regarding branch normally consists of two sections. They are under the charge of an under secretary, also called as the branch officer. Now after branch, let us see about the next topic, that is section. A section consists of assistants. Assistants will be there. Upper division and lower division clerks. Upper and lower division clerks. Clerks. And then headed by the section officer. All these will be headed by the section officer. So a section consists of assistants, upper division clerk and lower division clerk, and they will be headed by a section officer. Now the initial handling of cases, noting and drafting, all are carried by these assistants. So here if you see in the sections, I will write the points again. So if you consider these sections, it consists, just as we said, it consists of assistants will be there, then upper and lower division clerks, and also they are headed by the section officer. Now what do they do? That is initial handling of cases, then noting, drafting, all these things are carried on by these assistants. Initial handling of the cases, noting and drafting, all are carried on by these assistants. Next, let us see about the cabinet secretary. Okay, the next topic is cabinet secretary. The cabinet secretary functions under the leadership of prime minister at the political level and the secretary at the administrative level. Okay, so we have cabinet secretary who functions under the prime minister at the political level and the cabinet secretary at the administrative level. Now, the cabinet secretary is drawn from the senior most officers of Indian administrative service. So, if we see the selection of cabinet secretary, so they are taken from the senior most officers of the Indian administrative service. And the role of cabinet secretary, next we have to see the role of cabinet secretary. So regarding the different functions of cabinet secretary, okay, now the functions, or we can see the role of cabinet secretary. The main function of the cabinet secretary is to provide assistance to Council of Ministers. That is the main function, assistance to Council of Ministers. Okay, so the cabinet secretaries are mainly drawn from the senior most officers of Indian Administrative Service, and the main function is to provide assistance to the Council of Ministers. He deals primarily with cabinet ministers. So cabinet secretary primarily deals with cabinet ministers. As the head of the civil service, the cabinet secretary ensures the morale of the civil servants. He or she also ensures the morale of the civil servants. Why? Because the cabinet secretary is selected from the head of the civil service or senior most officers of civil service. So they ensure the morale of the civil servants. Now, the cabinet secretary attends all meetings of cabinet and cabinet committees. Another important duty is to attend all the meetings of the cabinet and cabinet committees. Okay, that is another function. Then he has to act as a bridge between the political executive and the civil servants. So they act as a bridge between the political executive and the civil servants in situation of conflict between the two. So in case of conflict between the political executive or the civil servants, in such situations the cabinet secretary acts as a bridge between the two. So that also comes as a duty or function of the cabinet secretary. The next one, in cabinet meetings, he draws up the minutes which contain the decisions reached. So, draws up the minutes which contain the decisions reached. So cabinet secretary during the cabinet meetings draws up the minutes which contain the decisions reached, and he has to follow the code of secrecy. Cabinet secretary always have to follow the code of secrecy. The code of secrecy has to be always followed. That also is the duty. He has to ensure the decisions are implemented properly. Ensures that the decisions are implemented properly. All the decisions are implemented properly. That has to be ensured by the cabinet secretary. And the cabinet secretary acts as the eyes and ears of the prime minister. Eyes and ears of the prime minister to keep in touch with the process of official business in the union government. So always the cabinet secretary acts as the eyes and ears of the prime minister to keep in touch with the process of the official business of the union government. The cabinet secretary also provides the element of stability and continuity. Okay, provides the element of stability and continuity to the administration when the prime minister resigns. So in case of a situation where the prime minister resigns, the cabinet secretary provides the element of stability and continuity. That also is an important duty. And the cabinet secretary, as I have already told, is the senior most civil servant of the country. Cabinet secretary is the senior most civil servant of the country. So all these are the important functions, or we can say the role of cabinet secretary. So let us just go through the points which we have studied once more. Then it will be much clearer. Division. A wing of the ministry is divided into divisions for the sake of efficient and expeditious disposal of business allotted to the ministry. Two branches ordinarily constitute a division, normally under the charge of deputy secretary. Branch. A branch normally consists of two sections and is under the charge of an under-secretary, also called as branch officer. Section. A section consists of assistants, upper division and lower division clerks headed by a section officer. The initial handling of cases, noting and drafting is carried on by these assistants. Cabinet Secretary. The Cabinet Secretariat functions under the leadership of Prime Minister at the political level and Cabinet Secretary at the administrative level. The Cabinet Secretary is drawn from the senior-most officers of the Indian Administrative Service. The role of Cabinet Secretary. The main function of the Cabinet Secretary is to provide assistance to the Council of Ministers. He deals primarily with Cabinet Ministers. As the head of the civil service, the Cabinet Secretary ensures the morale of the civil servants. The Cabinet Secretary attends all meetings of Cabinet and Cabinet committees. He has to act as a bridge between the political executive and the civil servants in situation of the conflict between the two. In cabinet meetings, he draws up the minutes which contain the decisions reached. He has to follow the code of secrecy. He has to ensure the decisions are implemented properly. The cabinet secretary acts as the eyes and ears of the prime minister to keep in touch with the process of official business of the union government. He provides the element of stability and continuity to the administration when the prime minister resigns. The cabinet secretary is the senior most civil servant of the country. So all are the important duty or the role of cabinet secretary. Now let us see some important question answers from this part. What is a department? It is a primary unit of a ministry. A single ministry has several departments under it. What is a wing? Depending on the volume of work in the ministry, one or more wings can be set up. An additional secretary or joint secretary is in charge of the wing. Explain the role of cabinet secretary in the central government. All the points which we have discussed just now, that is role of cabinet secretary, is the answer for the question. Write a note on central secretariat. So the answer is explained in the video. You can see the point wise explanation and you can write the answer. So all these were the important points regarding the central secretariat. So I hope you have understood the points very clearly. In case of any doubt, you can ask in the comment section. And also, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Your likes and shares will be of a great encouragement for me to make more and more videos. So I hope to see you all soon in the coming video. Thank you for watching.